What's going on, family? We're back for another Raw and Real with Pastor Walt. How you living today, young man?
Living the dream. What's up, family? Hope and pray everybody is doing well. Listen, do us a favor, like, comment, share, get the word out that we have in Raw and Real conversation, straight, no chaser.
Straight, no chaser.
Yes,
that's
sir.
right.
Yes,
and make sure you download the Chosen City app, because that's where all this is going to be. So, Pastor Walt, you know, we've been in this Just Worship series, and I know that last week we had a good word, but I want to park, like you like to say a lot of times, on this worship thing for a quick second. Is that cool with you?
That's cool with me, man. Let's talk about it.
All right. So, you know, I'm a part of and last week we kind of touched on this and we didn't get a chance to share this because we had a little bit of technical difficulties. But worship, as its definition, is something a little bit different than some of us like to look at it as. We always think about it in terms of worshiping God, but you actually gave a cool definition of worship. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this real quick.
All right.
It says worship is the individual posture which reflects the value being given to the object of affection.
Yeah.
And that's deep. Now, I'm part of a different fellowship where they try not to be all godlike and everything, but they said they call worship when you deliberately turn your attention towards.
Oh, yeah.
And so I would like to, as you say, sometimes I like to argue the point that sometimes we don't have a problem with worship. I don't even think that the world has a problem with worship. I think we may have a problem with where we're directing our attention to.
I would agree 100%. Believe it or not, based on the pure definition of worship, everybody is worshiping something, right? Our mandate and goal is to get the world to worship the true and living God, not for selfish reasons, but because we realize that's where the power is. When the created connects with the creator, everything in life, the perspective changes, especially when you connect to purpose. You understand more about who you are, why you are here, and things of that nature. And you understand all of the challenges that you go through. All of those pains have a purpose. And so when we talk about worship, we're talking about a posture, right? We're talking about, like you said, where are we? Where is our affinity focus? Where does our loyalty lie? In the midst of good times, in the midst of bad times, we choose to worship. You know, some people choose to worship. You know, that E&J, that Irk and Jerk, as the boys used to say. Some, you know, choose to worship the various plants from the ground, right? But this is not that. This is not that. But at the end of the day, you know, real true worship does not happen until you as an individual connect with God, and that's what we're trying to pull out in this series. You know, just worship and beyond the emotions of the moment, because sometimes worship won't make sense, especially when you're not feeling God, right? Especially when the situation is not going how you want it to. But if we can get people to change their mindset and not worship all the time from a place of emotion, which is why Jesus said the day would be coming where the true worshipers would not worship. He didn't say in emotion, worship in feeling, worship because it's a special day. No, he said they will worship in spirit and in truth, because with truth, you understand, even in the middle of a bad moment, even in the middle of a bad situation, the truth is that God loves me, and I don't like this, but I trust that God is up to something. Yeah.
Good stuff. And I love the way you kind of segued into what your word was for Sunday, when worshiping God doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I think that the whole posture of worship and understanding said when worshiping God, not worshiping the situation,
correct?
Not worshiping the outcome.
There you go.
Not necessarily even worshiping what it is that we want. So if we actually worship God for who He is, the situation doesn't have to make sense.
Man.
And that's how we're able to kind of get through those situations when worshiping God doesn't necessarily make sense.
Man, listen, I need to give you your license today, because that's just the realest thing. It's like you have to be able to see not the situation, but be able to see God. And realize that in this world, it's hard for us to comprehend, but God is not the author of confusion. You know, God does not, he's not bringing evil into our lives. The question though is that, okay, if He is not the author of it, He didn't bring it, then He still could have stopped it, or and why didn't He? And that's one of the things you have to understand about God. You know, this world that He's created, with all of us having these free choices and free opportunities, and mankind, humanity failing the test of freedom over and over results in bad things happening in life. It results in sickness, right? Real talk, you in great shape. I'm trying to look like you one day, Joe.
No.
But could I really blame God if I had type 2 diabetes as an example? Specifically choosing type 2 as an example because that's something you can control more than the other ones. So if I get type 2 diabetes and lose a leg, I'm mad at God and I don't worship. Was that really on God? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And what I'm saying is this, we get mad at stuff because evil is in the world, right? Gluttony is in the Bible, right? We want to come to finances and crooked, corrupt people who impact the economy. It's not really God's fault. God, there is enough, I know when we get on the soapbox, but there's enough resources on the planet to feed everybody here. It does not happen because of corruption in the land. So is that really God's fault, right? And so, like you said, am I going to let something that really wasn't God's fault impact my worship? Does that make sense? And yes. you got to be able to look past all the situations, and that's not being minimizing the pains of bereavement and the pains of losing loved ones and the pain of those stuff. But the only way you survive is that you can see God beyond the situation. Because if you can't see God and all you can do is see the situation, then you'll lose your worship. And so Sunday, we had to look at some individuals had to worship God when it absolutely made no sense for those individuals to be worshipped.
Yeah. And I tell you what, one of the things that I think is so difficult, and I'm going to ask you to expound upon this again. You kind of touched on it then, but a lot of times when we actually are in these places where we've done our due diligence, where we've said, God, I prayed, I fasted, we rubbed the oil on it, you know what I'm saying? We've done all of those things, and we still didn't get the outcome that we wanted. And I know that what I have to do a lot of times is I have to understand that my definition of good is not sovereign. You know what I'm saying? I don't know that actually today, me having that diabetes and losing a leg may mean that I was not able to drive to a spot that I was going to get killed at.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? The very thing that I thought may have hurt me was the thing that may have saved my life.
That's right.
And it's God and his sovereignty and what he knows is actually good, not for today, but maybe for down the line, that actually is really what is good.
But to me, that's part of the worshiping in spirit and in truth. The truth of who God is. You said that God is sovereign. You have what some may call a theology that's based in Romans 8 verse 28, which reminds us that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So that means that even when things happen to us that are painful at the time, God is up to something. We have to trust him. So you don't get there based on how you feel. You get there based on your understanding of the truth of who he is. And you understand the truth of who he is by studying who he is, by spending time with him, right? And then that's the only way. It's not just real talk. It's not to say it's not painful, right? But you understand the truth of who he is, and that's how you ultimately get past it. Whereas so many people do not get past it because they can't see God in it. You know what I'm saying? And when they get past it, they lose their worship. They get frustrated. They lose their joy. They lose their peace. And the most sad cases are when they lose their life. And that's one of the things, man. I would encourage anybody out there that's going through, man, just worship. Man, do the best you can, not because you feel like it, but because of the truth of who he is. And if you cannot force your way because you are so angry, you're so upset, I thought you just start reading about God, right? And watch the Holy Spirit try to reveal to you that he's a good father. He loves you and he wants the best for you. And I want to encourage you to keep on trusting him. Even as we say, keep trusting him when you can't trace him. You know what I mean? Right. And after a while, you'll see that there's power in that worship, man. You know, when you just don't feel like it, it's the only thing. And that's why I love that song. Sometimes you got to make a choice. I don't feel like it, but today I choose to worship. So I'd encourage everybody to choose to worship no matter what it feels like, no matter what you're going through. Make worship your choice today.
That's good stuff. Yeah. Well, and as always, we want to make sure that people have an opportunity to reach out to you. And this is mental health awareness as well. So one of the things we want people to do is not only if you're having a problem with dealing with not understanding how I can worship, from a God perspective. But if you just need to reach out,
Yeah,
if you need someone to talk to, how can people reach out to you, Pastor Walt?
Man, listen, I always appreciate when I hear from the saints. WBowers@chosencitychurch.com. WBowers@chosencitychurch.com. Love to hear from my sisters and brothers out there, be able to talk about whatever God has placed on your heart.
That's good stuff, man. Well, family, we will see you all next week, man. I appreciate you taking the time to do all this today, young man.
Oh, yeah, man. I appreciate you, bro. It's always a pleasure to be here. Family, it's good to see y'all. Have a blessed rest of the day.